Thanks for being here at the last paper before we have the final discussion. So, in 1947, Mickey Katz was performing with Spike Jones as part of the City Slickers. Here is a segment from a film called Variety Girl, with Mickey Katz as a small-sized guy playing clarinet in the ensemble with Mary Hatcher, who is Spike Jones's wife, as the main singer. This level of slapstick comedy, taken in one shot, is a tour de force, spraying water from a clarinet. I don't know how they did that. Dancing, glugging, and gunshots are all spontaneous and hilarious. From 1946 to 1947, Mickey Katz performed with Spike Jones and was often featured as a listing on the program. As we all know, Mickey Katz created parodies of American songs like Spike Jones, but did it in a Yiddish style. Textually and musically, it was Yiddish. Yiddish and English unapologetically being put together. He is known as a comic. He did have Yiddish comedy routines, in addition to being a band leader and clarinetist. Most people are familiar with his many images, both on his albums, and one of the most famous ones is him on the Butcher Block. And the amazing thing is, he was a very short man, so it wasn't like any forced perspective. And various photographs and caricatures, we just sort of think of Mickey Katz as this very funny image. In this presentation, I will add the moving image of Mickey Katz and put this in conversation with the sonic dimension. We'll see some interesting connections. Mickey Katz and his family moved from Cleveland in 1946 to Los Angeles to work with Spike Jones. Sorry about that. Here's a picture of the Katz family with Joel, who's the older son, and Ron as the younger son. In 1947, he recorded his first album, Haymoff and Range. This is the start of taking popular American songs, Judaizing them, and Judaizing the story into Yiddish-English dialect with lots of Yiddish words and phrases thrown in. These Yiddish words and phrases are cleverly woven into the flow and the rhyme of the text. So here, I'm just going to play for you. I know it's a little small, just the chorus of the song. Here's what Mickey Katz said about this recording in an interview in the 1980s.
We made one session. In fact, the late Al Sack, who was a great writer out here, scribbled it out on a little piece of manuscript. We didn't have arrangements, but we put together the greatest musicians in the world. On that first session was the late Sammy Weiss, who was a wonderful man, Nat Farber, Benny Gill, Ziggy Elman, Manny Klein, Cy Zentner, the great trombone player. Yeah. It was a wonderful group, and we faked it. The next week, Haymoff and Range came out in New York and sold 50,000 copies the first 2 days.
And what I think is interesting is, I maybe should have blown this up, but he's referring to all the different musicians, Manny Klein, Cy Zentner, but on the album, they're all listed with their Hebrew names, Mendel Klein, Shimshon Zentner, and so forth. So this kind of like aspect of Jewishness is sort of like one of these little hidden things just in the label of it. So there's a kind of a well-known photograph here of a l'chaim that they did in the studio during this recording session. And on the far left, you see Joel Gray, who's about 15 years old. I've had the tremendous pleasure of being able to talk to Joel Gray numerous times, done interviews with him. This is from a 2021 Zoom program that I did with him. You'll see Joel in the upper right-hand corner talking about this. Joel, I don't know how old you are there, Joel, but you look a little young in here. But
very young.
So, Joel, anything you want to say about this early recording period?
It was always about the joy of being with his fellow musicians, and he always had the greatest guys to go back to their roots in a way, in the way that he did. And it was just so much pleasure. And I think that the reason that his records and his work was so accepted and memorialized in a way is that he was trying to make himself into the American that he was. He was born in the US, but his roots meant so much to him. And he was so respectful of Yiddishkeit and Yiddish music. And he just wanted to share that. And he told his story in his own way. And a lot of people responded to that.
I'm just curious, the idea of like putting in like a klezmer break, like in these songs, is that, how do you know how that idea grew? Was that just the way that they're just putting their Jewish musicalness into?
It was natural. It's just inevitable.
That's
And
great.
he was about inevitability. You know, nothing stopped him and nothing fazed him about his belief in Yiddishkeit and in his role in this country.
Joel's so reflective about his father, and this is a wonderful representation. So as Joel Gray comments, the Jewishness of Mickey Katz is inevitable and part of his expression of the joy of his Jewish roots. Mickey Katz recorded about 80 parody songs with his band and also instrumental klezmer tunes. Although the comedy songs are better known, I invite you to hear the instrumental songs because the musicianship on it is really of a very high quality. Perhaps his most well-known song is David Crockett, King of Delancey Street, and that came a little later. In 1948, he took the 4 songs he recorded at that time and put them together in a Yiddish review that was called Borshkapades. The Borshkapades opened here in LA at the Wilshire Ebell Theater, and it ran for 6 months. It then toured around the country, and in 1980, it opened on Broadway. Among other things, it was Joel Gray's Broadway debut. This show had a Western theme elements to it, as you can see here in the very funny pictures of Mickey Katz in his cowboy duds. This Hirschfeld drawing, which appeared in the New York Times, wonderfully characterizes the performers of the show. And so the Berry sisters are on the lower right. Hilliard, Jim Hilliard is in there, Patsy Abbott. These were all people who were part of the show at one time or another. And this whole aspect of the Bar Mitzvah Ranch was like a whole focus to it. So he often satirized borscht, such as things like the Borscht Belt, as you see like in this picture. And he's sort of always associated with the Borscht Belt, but he never performed in the Catskills. But he used the Catskills as an album, and if you look at it, it's not Catskills, it's Catskills. Another filmic appearance of Mickey Katz is in the movie Thoroughly Modern Millie in 1967. You will see Mickey Katz behind Julie Andrews, surprisingly the singer of this wedding band, behind her right shoulder. So I invite you to check out this entire clip. This is not likely recorded live, and you see members of Mickey Katz's band, Cy Zettner on trombone, Sammy Weiss on the drums, Benny Gill on the violin. The pianist's back is to the camera, so we don't know who it is. It could likely be Wally Wexler, who he often worked with, or his longtime arranger, Nat Farber. Nat Farber is pretty well known. He was the arranger for CBS and did the Carol Burnett show. And his archives are here at UCLA, and there's some Mickey Katz material there, but that's not part of this presentation. All right. Sylvia Neufeld is listed as the writer of what this is listed as the Jewish wedding song Trink L'chaim. The only information I can find on her is that she is a pianist who accompanied some Yiddish singers. Another direct representation of Mickey Katz is his appearance on the Mike Douglas show in June of 1973, when Joel Gray is a co-host. And as you can see, he's a really good clarinetist. The only shame, I have one other clip of him on another local LA TV show, and he's playing with the house band. So they're just looking at a chart, playing chords, doing oompa. I mean, it's really not klezmer in terms of the accompaniment to it, but obviously you can hear his clarinet playing. All right, so here's another representation of his music, but in an indirect fashion. The Martha Raye Show was on from 1954 to 1956. One episode includes the music of Mickey Katz, but here's the twist. The segment is called Visit Near East, showing Egyptian pyramids. After a stereotypical Middle Eastern intro, the visual changes to the billboard puppets who appear, but what follows is the music of Mickey Katz's tune called The Family Danced. I hate to cut this off, but you get the idea. And there's more to come. I'll now turn to a cartoon representation. Beanie and Cecil was a cartoon consisting of 26 episodes and 78 segments that was created in 1962. How many of you remember Beanie and Cecil? Yeah, this is my childhood, Beanie and Cecil. I said it to other people who are much younger than me, but this is my childhood. It was based on a TV puppet show. At the time, it was called just Beanie. It was one of the first 3 color cartoons. The other 2 were the Jetsons and the Flintstones on ABC. It was originally known as Maddie's Funnies, and it was later called Beanie and Cecil. Beanie is the boy with a helicopter hat, and Cecil is the seasick sea serpent. In episode 15, The Wild Wasteland, we meet the character Slop-Along Catskill, a frog with a cowboy hat who is a parody of Chester from Gunsmoke. Mickey Katz voices the character, which is drawn from his parody of the Yiddish Western persona as he featured in Borshcapades. Slop-Along Catskill is the narrator of this episode and a side character in the story. In this story, Cecil sets out to clean up the town of an evil perpetrator. I'm only going to play about 3 minutes of it to give you an idea of it. All right, so you get the idea of the character that he's portraying here. In episode 24, in a segment called Nyahaha, you'll hear him say it, Cecil judges the Granny Awards, a music award. Slop-Along Catskill is one of the contestants, and here Mickey Katz sings a very short phrase. He sings in English, with a Yiddish dialect, and these 2 episodes with Slop-Along Catskill indicate the acceptance of Mickey Katz's persona. The sonic dimension of his persona, dialect, inflection, Yiddishism, is on full display, and the very definition of the character. Josh Kuhn, in his chapter on Mickey Katz in his book Audiotopia, describes Katz as performing ethnic racial in-betweenness, so another ness for Mike. Some laughed and were embarrassed and embraced it, and others did not know what to do, feeling Mickey Katz was the melting pot gone awry, in Josh Kuhn's words, and too loudly Jewish. In fact, in the Midwest, some radio stations refused to play Mickey Katz's recordings in the 1950s. The Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas said Mickey Katz was too Jewish to play in Vegas. This did change over time. Kuhn says Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner did the 2,000-year-old man, their skit, in the 1950s, but did not record it until the 1960s. Kuhn says the difficulty in the 1950s is that it was too hard for Jews to express Jewishness post-Hitler, and Katz in particular was a stark reminder of why so many were embarrassed. Yet, Mickey Katz persisted. Andrea Mose characterizes the late 1950s and early 60s in her book, Theatrical Liberalism, as a turn to ethnic pride and a time for Jews to celebrate authentic Jewishness in popular culture. With Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows filled with a team of Jewish writers, where skits of German soldiers often included Yiddish phrases, the dual code were attempts by the writers to subtly express their Jewishness openly. Mickey Katz's parody recordings were all part of the era moving from the embarrassment of the 1950s to the acceptance of the 1960s. Mickey Katz's comic persona is largely through his songs, the content, dialect, English, of the text and the music. Visual representations of his albums and caricatures and promotional photographs all reinforce the sonic image. The limited moving images of him performing similarly express this image. I see the slop-along Catskill cartoon character as an iconic marker of acceptance, making Mickey Katz a true exemplar of a sonic representation of Jewishness on screen and off. Thank you very much.